classic Arabic music.
Arab Music Retreat with Simone Shaheen.
Everyone is valued and the whole group is valued. It's not just your individual self.
People come here out of love.
Together for 1 week and make what we just saw.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Radio Habibi.
Where are we right now, Selima?
My dearest Rima, we are under a western red cedar tree in Pine Grove Cemetery in Brunswick, Maine, USA.
Is it because it's cool, or is it because we had no other choice but to come here because there was someone in the recording studio?
It's absolutely because it's cool.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and it's also like one of those times where you're like, how are we even talking about anything?
Yeah. A cedar tree seemed fitting, though.
So I didn't realize that the Lebanese flag had a cedar tree.
Yeah.
And so Pine Grove Cemetery is the oldest graves are from the late 1700s. And now there are many families and people and some famous folks in the context of Brunswick, Maine.
I just saw McKean.
Yeah. Joshua Chamberlain's also there, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, wild.
Celebrities.
Right?
It just feels like we're also decomposing. So I feel like that's fitting.
Can you elaborate on the decomposing part?
I don't know. I just feel like we're slowly, there's a lot of death and there's a lot of shock, but also we're, nothing is actually happening. Look at the Arab world. Nobody's doing anything. And it just feels like we're very slowly decomposing. I don't know if that makes sense, but...
And I feel like here, it's like the musicians on the Titanic?
Yeah.
As the ship is sinking slowly, slowly, we just keep playing music.
Mm-hmm. Totally, yes. That's us.
So today's episode is talking about the Arab Music Retreat in Mount Holyoke.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty interesting to put that in conversation with the idea of the Arab world not being a united front or doing anything.
Yeah.
Because that retreat for a second was just a collection of a bunch of Arabs and Arab Americans coming from all over the region who were just making music together and engaging in thoughtful, deep conversations and building community in such a strong and meaningful way. Call me naive, call me crazy, but I really think that music can not only unite but power through and push big things. So yeah, today we're talking about the Arab Music Retreat with Simone Shaheen. I participated in the retreat in August and did some ethnographic fieldwork where I gathered sounds and interviews. And this episode will be me telling Rima about this retreat.
Yeah.
And telling you guys about it and sharing some snippets of conversations with friends and just sharing the vibe, because I really think it's something powerful and magical and we should explore it.
Selima, who is Simone Shaheen?
So Simone Shaheen is a brilliant violin and oud player from Palestine. He first came to the United States in 1980, and he essentially not only founded musical groups that performed, but also bridged the gap between Arab music and Western musical education in the United States. He's a faculty at Berklee College of Music, and he's been just propelling musicians from Palestine, from around the Middle East, and in the United States, and in really just fostering generations of musicians and pushing Arab music. And he is really just the Beyonce of Arab music. So it's quite a big deal. And this retreat started, like this is the 28th edition of the retreats. And it's been going for a while, and it's happening in Mount Holyoke, which is a college like in Western Massachusetts. It started with about, I think, around 20 to 30 people. And I think this edition of the retreat had like around 120 participants.
That's crazy.
It is quite wild. Like the fact that this program has grown, has been consistent and has grown so much over the years, it's quite impressive.
And why did he decide to make this retreat?
I think it's the need to be this belief that to understand Arab music and translate its power, you need to be completely immersed in it and it's in the culture. Because in the retreats, there are a lot of elements that we study. There is we study maqamet, we study theory. We spend the first hours of the day just like doing ear training to get used to the semitones. So he would sing and we would repeat after him for an hour. And just get like really everyone tuned in to the same frequencies. There's also a big element of playing together and performing in groups, whether it's in jam sessions or in chamber groups. And you have also like faculty from around the country and around the world that comes, and professors are just so brilliant that it's just so inspiring and exciting. And in an interview, like Shaheen says that like what you get out of the retreat is essentially like 6 months worth of instruction, and it's so condensed. Like you learn so much. So I think it's just like a catalyst, because there are so many of him. Him or other people, and you also need to inspire people if for anything to continue to get bigger.
And like, what kind of people have you met in there?
The retreat is really open to everybody, where you have professional musicians, where you have people with full-on careers and who play music on the side. You have people who have been playing music since they were 5, people who picked up their oud like 6 months ago. You have people who have been like classically trained for so many years and who are curious. You have like also like an aspect ethnomusicologists who come. You have younger people. Like it's really the age range is quite diverse too. You have people in their 40s and 50s and 60s and like people in their 20s. It's really just like a very diverse group of people that comes together, and so you have a lot of like Arab Americans who participate in the retreats and who find in music a way to connect to home. You also have like Americans who are not connected to Arab music who participate in the retreats. You also have a scholarship program that brings people like student musicians from Palestine and gives them scholarships to attend the retreats.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. What, like, you kind of touched on how it's like a way for people to nurture their like the original countries and to deal with exile. What do you think, like, first off, how do you think that is done? Like, what kind of things do you do that you feel like get you closer to that? And how do you think this is like important in the bigger context?
Yeah, I feel like for this question we should listen to Samara. Samara's from New York. She's Syrian and she came to the retreat with her father, who's also Syrian. And she speaks about this idea of home and reconnecting to culture through the retreats.
My dad belongs in like a sort of like
You need a cup too, right?
okay, how do I say this? He is really nostalgic about a specific type of community he had when he was able to live in Syria, that when he came to America, he over time just slowly lost, like the musical, artistic beauty like of our culture. And there are not many places to engage in that kind of thing and to strengthen your culture and skill related to music in that way. So coming here was really special for that reason, as well as my dad and I, the way that we like communicate most is through like playing music together or listening to music together. and we don't like that's like us having a conversation almost. Like no matter how tired he is when he comes home from work or like when I come home from school, like we'll just play together and we'll both have the energy for it, even if we don't have the energy to talk. So coming to this retreat was just like an extended version of that, and being able to like operate independently, because obviously he's like 60 and I'm 24. So he's out there like talking to people similar to him who have had similar experiences and background and like passion. And I operate on my own too. Then we come back to each other and share, and we admire like each other's progress. And it feels really like inspiring to see him reconnect with it in that way, because reconnection I think is really difficult and like scary to your culture after you feel so disconnected from it for so long for reasons beyond your control, like not being able to return to your country for long periods of time, like decades. So yeah, it's really special.
Yeah, it's so interesting how like you could see two different types of exile. Like one type is just like firsthand Samara's dad not being able to come back and missing all the parts that came with like being in Syria and the culture and the people, and using music as a way to like always remember that and to keep remembering. And then I feel like with Samara it's more like reconnecting with like an idea or like an image and something you've never lived, something you've never known, but you're so like intimately connected to it. And like a lot of like people that I've met, like I went to a conference where I met a lot of like Syrian diaspora, and they would keep telling me how like they would feel like something is missing, but like it's not, like when they go to Syria or when they visit, it's not, you know, like it doesn't really satisfy that. And it, like you have to go to other ways and parts of culture to like fully satisfy that, and it feels like that's like what music is for her.
Yeah, I think it's a recurrent theme, because there are a lot of people who have been in the United States for a very long time, or a lot of the younger generations who come to the retreats have also not experienced like being home. And then there's the other layer of the retreats as a little like mini cosmos of home when you can come back like physically. My friend Hossam, who's Syrian, has been coming to the retreat for 13 years.
That's crazy. That's
13
like
years.
Since the war started.
Since the war started. So the retreat really is like he was saying, like this is my week of home. Like I just go there for a week and I just recharge.
You know, like for so many people, including me, like the idea of home does not really exist anymore. Like I know for a fact I'm not going to completely feel at home. Maybe I will to some degree, but I won't feel completely at home in Syria because that just no longer exists. Like, and to have this like, I don't know, condensed version where it's just like you're doing a big part of culture that you love, and you're just there and you're doing it with other people, like.
Yeah. And because also this retreat only has the good parts of home.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get at.
And that's, I think, something that Aya was speaking to. Like, Aya is from Lebanon. She lives in Paris. And she came to it was her second time at the retreat. And I was having this conversation with her, trying to unravel the magical elements of the retreat. So let's listen to Aya for a bit.
Actually, I've been waiting for like the 2024 version for quite a few months now. It's all I've been thinking about. And I was so excited to come back because, okay, I mean, long story short, it's something very unique. It doesn't happen in any other place in the world. When I'm talking like about Arabic music, Arabic, yani. There are a few elements. First of all, it's like a luxury being here. It's like a bubble of happiness. You don't get to live this anywhere else. People come here out of love. And that's what makes it special. Because like there's one purpose, it's our love for music. And when you gather with other people sharing the same passion, things cannot go bad. So, and what's also nice is that nobody's judging here. Like, we're all here to learn and to discover each other and to discover others' talents. And everyone, like, with no exception, is talented. So, like, that's part of the magic. And our teachers are really great. I mean, not only musicians, they are great human beings, and they have been very generous with us, very kind as well. And I don't know. I mean, I wish this happens like in other places as well.
So yeah, in this conversation with Aya, I was really just trying to make sense of the magic at the retreat. Like something in the air that made everything feel like okay and possible and beautiful. All of these elements brought together just make up for something so beautiful and so healing and so life-giving.
But it's also like so scary, you know, like imagine only getting like the fact that we get to do this once a year for 1 week each year, and the fact that people keep coming back means that like they long for this, and like this should be our lives, you know, but like we can't go back, we can't go. And also like the idea of home is not actually home, like the idea does not exist anymore, you know. And it's like the retreat is like a version of this contained like part of home that like no longer exists, and like that is like very much like a bubble.
No, you're right. It's wild that you get to experience this sense of connection and happiness, and what you're saying about like this is what life is about, like music and community and love, and the fact that you only get to experience that in some kind of also commodified structure. This is kind of organic in the sense where like people are just like so insanely wonderful and kind and beautiful, but also like this is not real life. It's a bubble. It's a little bubble of happiness, but it's a bubble. And I was having a conversation with someone who shared that like the fact that people feel this way about the retreat is kind of a worst case scenario. Because what you said, like, why isn't this happening at home? Why is this happening in Palestine, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Tunis? Like, why is this happening in Western Massachusetts?
Exactly, and it's like this, like I don't know, it just feels like a reminder of like what could have been. Yeah. And instead we got this 1 week version of like what it could have actually been like.
I feel like also the 1 week version is necessary to inspire you and to keep you.
It's so important. Like going back to the idea of like exile and remembering, and I think like it's so important that you have to keep remembering, you have to keep imagining what it could have been, because even though it's not where it's very far from where we want to be, you have to keep like that memory of like home and preservation and culture.
And you have to act on it. Culture is dynamic. It's something that you practice, and it has to adapt to change. And if culture isn't like adaptive, then it's stagnant. And the most successful cultures are the ones that like are able to adapt to big changes. So I'm like, yes, it's important to cultivate memory, but it's important to practice to keep it alive. After that conversation, my wanderings at the retreat turned to like, okay, what's your next step? And here I interviewed Iyad, who's Syrian from LA, and he plays violin, and he doesn't play the violin. His violin sings, and he's like caressing it. So Iyad has a friend, Haytham, who he brought to the retreat after coming for the first year, and Haytham and Iyad would sit in the lobby until 2-3 a.m. just playing Kulthum and playing and just until the very end of the night. And they're one such amazing community builders and just like vibers, you know the people who bring the people together.
That's the most Syrian thing ever. The vibers.
No, for real. So let's listen to like what's the next step after this retreat?
Well, next is we need to get more into like the classic Arabic music, instrumental, maqamat. That's my goal for next year. I'm gonna start, working harder. I'm thinking going after the Americans. We need to spread the Arabic music and the American society. And we had a good experience last year after the first retreat, and we were able to gather like first concert like 120 people, second concert 220 people, which is very good. But we need to work harder.
So in this sense, like the retreat is so important to give people something to look forward to and something to build from. Like after that, you get so much inspiration. And Eid's talking about composing his own pieces, creating community groups.
Going after the Americans.
Yeah. Which is a big thing. Like, what do you think of like introducing Americans to Arab music?
I think like usually like they're very appreciative. They're very appreciative. Like my friend Rose, who also came to the US around the same time I did, we visited her host parents' house, and they're Americans. Like they've lived their whole life in America. And every day at dinner, we would curate a playlist of different Arabic songs, and we would make them listen to it at dinner, and we would just talk about music the whole dinner. And it just like built like this incredible, like they appreciated it so much, and each song like led into different stories about like the culture and the people. One time they even cried. Like it was just so endearing because a lot of people do appreciate it, like, and it humanizes us. It shows that people are like people in the Middle East are actually people, and that we have our own culture, we have our own like traditions and ways to love and ways to
Totally. I'm thinking about all the like Americans who come to the retreats and who have the time of their life, like really just getting acquainted with Middle Eastern music,
and also like the culture of like just being away from this individualistic culture and society, and like having a taste of like what it would be like to live in a big community where like everyone is valued and the whole like group is valued. It's not just your individual self. Like that must be so rewarding to like experience for the first time.
This is perfect. I had a conversation with Elizabeth, who's a musicologist. She's a cellist and a pianist. And we had a conversation about her feelings jumping into this community for the first time. So let's listen to her.
I'm at the Arabic music retreat because I have been playing in the Tufts Arabic ensemble for 2 semesters. And Nassim's the director, and he sent me an email saying that I should come. And it would be a good learning experience to be surrounded by the music. And I think he was right. The music is very community oriented, and I feel like the people here are as well. Like I don't think there was like any point in the retreat where I felt like I wasn't welcome, or like, because like sometimes when you're in like new social environments, you have trouble or you struggle, or I do, speaking to people and like, stuff like that. But I didn't really feel like I had an issue making like new friends and just like talking to random people, and like none of my timid tendencies really came out. And I loved doing the debka. I love dancing with Kareem. That was really fun.
I'm so glad that Elizabeth enjoyed the debke. That's like my biggest dream for an American. And I think it's really interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there's like apart from like the actual like teaching time and instruction and learning, there's a like big chunk of time where it seems like the jam sessions and like unstructured time for people to just bond, and it seems like it was like very intentional and made in a way to foster community and in a way that like helps you build those really strong relationships that encourage you to come back next year.
Totally. Like from the very first moment you enter the retreats, you're greeted with this welcoming energy. The first night, there's an activity where all 120 people gather in the lobby, and you're assigned one random person, and you have to introduce this new person. And there's this moment where everyone gathers, faculty, students, everyone, for about 2 hours, and you just get to hear like everyone's name and a little bit of a story, instruments, whatever, and you just start fostering these little moments of connection. And then over during the meals, the food was excellent, and you had to just like, it was encouraging. You would walk around and sit at any table and start a conversation with anyone. Like the culture there was to be just open, to have mirror hearts. Like, you know, just like you look, you just, everyone is so giving and excited. And about the jam sessions, people were encouraged to play music and to showcase whatever. Like it wasn't only Arab music. There was like a group that formed that day that did Brazilian music. I found some Tunisian people in there that I didn't know were coming. I thought I was gonna be the only Tunisian, but I found like 5 other people, or like 5 including me, and we did the Tunisian concert night at the open mic, and you recruited other people to play with us. And it genuinely is such a like a joyful and communal time, and really like community.
Yeah. What other elements do you think encourage people to come back? Like, why are there so many people from like the people we've heard from, or like this is my 25th year, bringing people with them like when they come back?
There are a lot of elements that we covered all throughout. There's the element of community, and the friends you meet and the people organizing a retreat are the same every year, so you just like create relationships. Then there's the quality of the instruction. It really brings people back. Like head of my ensemble was Camille Shajraoui, who's an incredible oud and violin player and who played violin with Fayrouz. Like that's the kind of level of instruction. The cello professor Nassim Al-Atrash, oh my, like brilliant. Like he'd be playing in the instruction, I'd be just like watching, like trying to like close my mouth, you know, so it's not like so I don't look stupid, you know. But so quality of the instruction, definitely another one. Connection with culture, and I think this retreat feels like one of the few instances where you feel like an Arab future is kind of like possible. The fact that you do this retreat every year and that you come back to it and you look forward to it, and like no matter how much shit goes down, there is this moment. The very sad part, the very worst case scenario, that there is going to be this moment where you're going to be able to like reconnect and look back and look at the richness. Like, oh my God. Like in one of the lessons, Shaheen was saying that we were barely scratching the surface of Arabic music. It's so deep, and you can go. Isa Boulos did a lecture on music making in Palestine in the 20th century. And you just like started looking at all these musicians, like the beginnings of like recording studios and the songwriters and the troops and the people. Like, so this is a legacy that is carried on the backs of so many brilliant people. And I think that's another part of the retreat, like that you're just like not allowing something to go down the drains, and you're fighting for it. You're like practicing it to keep it up. I feel like here, Omar, who's Moroccan, he accompanied his daughter to the retreat. Actually, she's a fantastic oud player and singer, and he came to the retreat to just like accompany her because she was a minor. But then he ended up just like spending all the time with everybody. Just like he was like an integral part of the retreat. Let's listen to Omar.
Okay.
I'm feeling humbled. I'm feeling humbled by the fact that so many people of so many different abilities and ages and backgrounds can get together for 1 week and make what we just saw. Initially, I thought I just had to be here because my daughter couldn't be here by herself, being under 18. But little did I know that I would be sucked into the energy of the place and the collective energy of the group. So now I want to come back and make music myself at some point, maybe next year. I think it's the concentration of energies around one central idea, which is to learn to love Arabic music and to make Arabic music together. But I think it's also the accumulated weight of all the years that this has been going on. And I think that's what propels it into the future in a way. It's the fact that it has sustained so much time happening year after year. And that's one possible definition of futurity, is knowing how to use the past.
So interesting. One possible definition of futurity is knowing how to use the past.
Yeah.
It feels like those really old people in Syria would be like, oh, back in the day, in the golden ages, and how it all went down from there. And I feel like that's a very common theme in Arab world, where like there was a golden age and then it all went down. And I think we tend to ignore our own complicity in that and our own surrender to the situations that we're in. And I think knowing the past and not just surrendering to, it's going to repeat itself. Like, I feel like that's a very common theme. And knowing how things played out and how to change is like so vital.
Yeah. I often think about the tree analogy. Like, how is a tree supposed to grow tall if its roots aren't deep? If it doesn't know its networks in the soil, if it doesn't know where to get its resources from, it doesn't know who it is, like, it just gets invaded and it gets like gets sick. An open ground for pests to take over if you don't have strong bases. And in this context, it's a fine line, between like being really like strongly connected to your past and having strong roots, but also don't spend all your time like
losing yourself in the past.
Exactly. Like, be aware that your past matters, but your present and futures are dependent on your actions and your initiative taking. So yeah, how is this retreat inspiring us to imagine futures?
Well, I mean, it's like direct, right? Like, it's a direct scenario, or like, I don't know what you want to call it, but like, it's a show of like what our future could look like in our own countries, where people could go back to Syria, go back to Palestine, wherever, and just like do what they were doing at the retreat. Living it probably felt like it's even more possible, and I feel like that's so inspiring and gives you so much energy and motivation to keep going and to resist in all forms.
Yeah, visualizing possible futures and having moments of nurturance and celebration. And also, like, the only way to imagine a future is to enact it. Is to make it happen. Like, you fake it till you make it.
Fake it till
Bring
you
people
make it.
together. If you want your future to be filled with music and love and understanding, you practice that today, right now. I want to take a moment to shout out all the amazing, amazing people who were at the retreat. Shout out to first Fatah, who drove me there. Remember Fatah, who introduced it to Saeed Murad? Yeah, we went on a road trip to Massachusetts from Maine, and Fatah is a oud player and he's fantastic. Thank you, Fatah. Thank you, Nix, Nadia, C, who played the bass for the Tunisian group, and so many. Just like brilliant and kind. Like, I made so many friends. Like, honestly, I had so much fun. Okay, last point, and maybe this is what we're gonna leave you with. But your ears at the retreat, there's something that happens inside. The vibrations, when they caress the little hairs inside of your ears that cause you to like make sense of sound, they were stimulated so much and with so much beauty and artistry that really I was cleansed. And I will leave you with some little sneak peek recordings of the music in this retreat, but it just, again, the thread from Saeed Murad, frequencies are magic. I repeat, frequencies are magic. want to say, Rima?
I'm just like, I'm so glad that this thing exists. It feels so heartwarming to know that, like, first off, there are people that passionate about Arab music in the US, and people that passionate about and that insistent on holding on to their culture and their values and not letting go and remembering and acting and practicing.
Alas, the world is still running. Yeah.
Barely running, kicking us in the butt, but it's running.
Thank you, Cedar Tree, for welcoming us under your shade today, or thinking about Lebanon, or thinking about people in Gaza, in Palestine, in Syria. Yeah. See you for the next episode of Radio Habibi.
Bye bye.